When it comes to X-Men 97 Season 2, based on Episode 6, I have to ask, are we going too fast? Welcome back, everyone. We're here today to talk about X-Men 97 Season 2, Episode 6, Danger.exe. I just watched this episode and I have a lot of thoughts about this. I think let's start off by focusing on some of the things I absolutely adored about this episode, and then we will move into the concerns that I feel many people are having, myself included, and some of the questions I'm asking myself after this episode in terms of the direction for season 2. Before we get into it, I want to know, we are halfway through the season now. How are you feeling about it so far? Are we feeling good? How are we feeling? Let me know down in the comments below. Let's start off with one of my favorite parts of the episode, and I have to say, that is Polaris. Wow. I loved Polaris in this episode. I thought we were doing some great exploration here with Lorna Dane. And in fact, I loved it so much that I wish there was more of it. I wish we went even further with it because that's how much I was enjoying it. So it's not really a criticism, because what it means to me is that I'm having such a good time, I just want more. And this is not a short episode. It feels like it's close to about a 30-minute runtime, and I think usually we're just over like the 20 mark. Of course, I'm doing this right after watching the episode, so please do take what I'm saying for some points of this with a bit of a grain of salt, because I am in the midst of traveling, so I have to do this video a little quickly. So bear with me here. But it felt like it was a longer episode in terms of the runtime, but they really carried the momentum of it. It felt very cinematic. It felt larger than life. It felt very dramatic. And all of that feels like it's a reflection of Polaris and what she's going through in her story and her character. And I am not a big Polaris person in the comics, but I gotta say, after this episode, I want to read more Polaris. I want to be Polaris. I love her hair. I love so many things about her. And now I understand a little bit more why people were so excited for her to appear here. So give me your Polaris comic recommendations in the comments, because I need to read more, clearly. I need to read more Polaris. Something else that I loved about this episode is the voice actress that we have for Danger here. I think it's Rachel Kimsey. I hope I'm saying that right. I just read it in the credits. She does an amazing job with Danger's voice. It's a little bit raspy. It's of course got a filter on it. It's technological sounding, but that menacing but polite nature beautifully blended together. And I even feel everything we're building with Professor X in this episode is being handled really well. The fact that we revisit this heartbreaking moment at the beginning of the episode where Magneto passes on and what Charles went through witnessing that, I thought they were just replaying this to tug at our heartstrings, but no, we're doing this because Charles is really in his feelings right now, and it is what's motivating him to make this choice to create X-Corp, to find a sort of legal loophole to continue his school and sort of continue on with the X-Men, but under a different umbrella, under a different name, so that he can continue to do the work that he feels he must do. And also honoring Magneto's memory with his approach here, kind of becoming a little bit more Magneto-esque. Definitely feels like Onslaught has been confirmed at this point. I just want to say Onslaught's coming. There is no way that you're going to tell me we're going to talk about Professor X searching his mind for a little piece of Magneto and calling on that when he is bringing some power to Lorna, using that piece of Magneto that's within him to boost her power. Onslaught, just get ready, because it's going to be crazy. So I enjoyed what we built with Professor X in terms of the overall story, but there are some elements here that I think we need to acknowledge that are maybe missing. Are they missing? Do we need them? How important are they? One of the biggest things for me is the accountability here for Professor X. He is the one that allowed Danger to become a Danger. He created the Danger Room, and a lot of the accountability that we have when Danger manifests and becomes this villain is in discussing Professor X's approach. He says that he wants to help mutants and do all of these things and help younger mutants, find a place for them. And yet he's constantly putting his students in danger for their benefit, which is something that's really messed up about his legacy. And then the other thing is his ignorance towards what Danger was becoming, the evolution of the program, and the fact that she herself is a mutant who, in this instance, has been oppressed by someone like Charles. So we're not acknowledging as much the darker elements of what Danger represents for Professor X. That's something that I think is missing here, but that's not to say that we couldn't get into that later, or that we couldn't get into that even when we get to Onslaught. It feels like right now the approach is going to more be that it is Magneto's mind within Charles and the melding of those two that's twisting Charles and messing him up. But even as we unpack the effects of Onslaught when we get there could be a time period where we pick apart Charles more and examine that maybe the dark side actually came from him. Maybe it's less Magneto. Maybe they both have a dark side. Maybe that's why also they're such good friends. So there's lots of stuff we can get into later on. So I'm not too worried, but I was a little disappointed. I won't deny. However, there seems to be an even bigger conversation here to be had, which is, of course, the absence of Emma Frost. Now, Charles gives this speech and also uses a tactic that echo Emma's speech and her tactics at the beginning of Astonishing X-Men, which is from Joss Whedon's run. Emma welcomes the students and says that what she wants to do, her approach to teaching them, is going to be to make sure that they can find a place in the world alongside humans, but also to remember that while they still need to respect and coexist with humans, they should never trust them because they are always seeking to cause harm to them. And so her use of the danger room in her speech is about preparing these kids for what is coming, which is humans are always going to have a reason to hate us, and we're just gonna have to deal with that forever. So never let your guard down. Now, with Professor X's approach to this tactic in this episode, instead, he is using the danger room to showcase his own sense of failure, his own guilt in regards to what happened with Magneto not being prepared, and to really want to prepare these students for the world at large. He feels it's getting more dangerous, and he feels that he needs to kind of change up a little bit his approach here. But he's not saying to them, never trust humans. So while I have seen some comparisons of Emma's speech and Charles's speech, I went back and read Emma's, and I went back and watched the speech again from the episode. They are different speeches that have different motivators behind them, but the tactic, of course, was Emma's. So is it fair that we're giving it to Charles, and what do we lose from the story when we do that? I guess the challenging thing with Emma Frost at this point in the show is that we really haven't built her up enough to have her come in and have this moment. We need more Emma Frost character building for her to really get in here and make an impact on the show. So I am hoping that they're going to do that, because I am also an Emma Frost fan and I would love to see that. But based on what we have right now, I don't see how that would have been possible for this episode. So while I can understand Emma fans, I mean, myself included, perhaps being frustrated or upset that we're losing that with Emma, on the other side, I think they're just focusing with this show on what they're already building up this season. And of course, with serial media, there's always going to be that temptation to kind of overanalyze something based on one chapter when we don't have the full story. But that's why I would like to reserve my judgment overall to how this episode fits in with the larger story until the larger story is done, until season 2 is complete. And then of course, if it doesn't work, I will be the first one to come back and say, guess what? I watched all of season 2 and it didn't work, and here's why. But so far, I am still enjoying this season, and I think the animation that we got in this episode, the overarching themes and how things are being woven together, I feel good about all of that. I do think there is a little bit of emotion that was missing for me with this episode, and I'm not fully sure why. So I wish I could give you more of a deeper analysis on that, but I do need to reflect more on it. But it just felt that the writing here, it felt a little bit flat for me in the sense that what we're saying, I guess, felt more just what was happening. It was just, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I'm thinking, I'm just saying it. So it was less subtextual maybe in this episode. But like I said, I haven't analyzed it enough. So come back to me with that one and I'll have more in-depth thoughts. Overall, I enjoyed the episode. I thought it completely drew me in, and I am very excited to see where they go with it next, to see what we explore with Charles's character. This is a very interesting era for him in the comics that we're exploring. And yeah, I mean, are we paraphrasing a lot of stuff here? Are we tweaking things? Yes, but is that also what X-Men, the animated series, and X-Men 97 has been about since the beginning of the show? Yes, it is. And so, you know, the comics will always be there, and we can definitely go back and read them and read every single issue and every single little story beat. And those are still important and impactful, but that's the comics and this is the show. And there are going to be those changes. And of course, how you feel about that is up to you. So I'll let you tell me some of your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below. I want to hear about it. How are you feeling? How are we feeling about X Factor? One thing I do need to say, the cameos in this episode were amazing. My boy Dupe, they got Beak. Glob is here again. Oh my goodness. I was having such a fun time. So many fun characters showcased here with their cameos. Jono's back. I mean, yeah. It's always a delight to see what cameos we're going to get. We even got Morph turning into Reed in the background. I mean, yeah, maybe there's more that I need to talk about. Maybe we'll do a video on some of the cameos that we've had this season, because there are so many wonderful characters here that I would love to shout out and showcase and get people interested in, so that we can all go back and read the comics and love them all over again, you know? That's all I have for this one. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you down there. And until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you want to hear more about the X-Men from me, you can check out more of my X-Men content by clicking right over here.